So it's quite obvious, I'm not going to be outside today doing any shooting. So far we've gotten about 3 inches and we're expecting maybe about 6. So what I thought I would do is just take a moment or two and we'll have a little parlay. Well, what a difference a day makes. We probably ended up with about 5 inches of snow. It's pretty chilly out here. The high today is supposed to only get to 39, so I'm going to try to get recorded what I need to get recorded and enjoy a nice warm house. So I want to have a discussion regarding a comment underneath one of my previous videos and trying to cite in my 1862 pocket police. And I appreciate the comment. I appreciate everybody's comments, even the snarky ones, even those that leave comments before they hear me say stuff like, so I bought 2 of those handsprings from Cimarron. But that's fine. I understand there has to be all kinds of snarky comments out there. I get that. But this one comment I do want to address because I really need a little bit of more input in this regard. And the comment is something to the effect that I might have a sloppy trigger and I would need to put a shim on one side or the other because that little bit of slop, depending on where it hits the cone, could throw the ball downrange and not be consistent with the impact. I don't know, friends, that I actually buy that thought process. I've heard it before from other people. So let me explain, and then maybe you could give me your thoughts and your input on it. Okay. First of all, this is a brand spanking new U-Birdie. Even though it's 21, 22 years old, it was brand new. And if you happen to hear like a little bit of noise, I got my heater going here. I got the door open, but got the heater going. That kind of like cancels each other out. But anyhow, the reason why I'm having a little bit of a issue processing that comment is, first of all, the trigger is in here very tight. Okay. Second of all, no matter where the hammer strikes the cone, your ball is going through a straight line, which would be the barrel. Okay. Now I do understand about micro movements and things like that, that when you drop the hammer, that little bit of movement as it travels forward and strikes the percussion cap, yeah, you might have some micro movement. And of course, having been in the cabinetry business and in the carpentry business for a number of years, I understand that if you're off a 1/4 of an inch here, 10 feet down the measurement, you could be off a 1/2 an inch. I understand that, and I understand the whole micro movement of this. But at the same time, when your gun is fully cocked, that bolt locks the cylinder in absolute line with the barrel, or at least it should. And there's no slop in this cylinder. And if your cylinder is misaligned, then I could understand where you would be shaving off some lead going into the forcing cone, which would, you know, make your ball not spin true inside the barrel. Okay. Now I know the camera's not going to pick it up, but there's a real tight fit between the hammer and the frame, and also the back strap, which is also part of your alignment. Okay, it's not just solely the frame, but it's also part of the back strap. Look at how these operate, and you can actually see that. Okay, so what little movement is in any hammer, and there's hardly nothing. I mean, I can't move anything, okay? But if there is any movement, it would be from, in my opinion, from the hammer bolt, because you have to have a clearance so that the hammer can actuate without any drag. Now, I showed you, friends, when I got the gun, how they threaded parts of that bolt, and I had to go and sand some of that off to get a smooth operation. But even with that being stated, I can't feel any movement whatsoever. Okay. Now, there was another commenter that had another black powder revolver, and I believe it was an ASM, and they actually misdrilled the hole for the pin. So instead of being directly on top, it kind of was off to one side. And I understand that would throw the projectile downrange inaccurately. Okay, now for those of you that have not followed the channel and seen everything that I've done with my previous guns, allow me to explain. Okay, this was the very first cap and ball revolver I ever bought in .36 caliber. Every cap and ball revolver I bought in the course of my lifetime, including the 2 kits I built when I was 18 years old, was all .44 caliber. Okay, so when I got this, you can go back on this channel and you'll see I did a video on this, Uberti's 1861 Navy. I didn't expect this. I had to do a lot of work to this gun, okay? And you can go back and see that. But one of the main issues, once I resolved some of the timing issues and the handspring being real loose and it's empty, one of the issues that I had to resolve is that this gun could not hit the point of aim. Okay? And as I showed and explained in a previous video, I put a taller front sight on it. When I took the original sight off and looking at that half moon key that they have to cut to put the front sight in, it wasn't perfectly aligned. Now, although it was dead center on top of the barrel, the way they cut that key notch was off at an angle just a little bit. Now, my son-in-law, he's a machinist, and when I showed that to him, I mean, it just jumped out at him like nobody's business. He saw that right off the bat. So I had to take my Dremel tool and I had to square up the channel. And then, since at that time I knew that Friday's Nightmare was, I forget right now if it was throwing it left or throwing it right, I actually favored the opposite side. Or no, I favored the side that the sight needed to go to correct the impact point. And you can go back on this channel and you'll see that I pretty much got this gun shooting as well as you can expect these guns to shoot. And this particular gun, the only movement is whatever that tolerance is between the hammer and the bolt that holds it in place. Now, you also have to bear in mind too that your bolt, it's got those 2 dog legs. Well, part of that bolt also operates in keeping your hammer tight. Look at the way that goes in there, and look at how it rides up against the opposite wall as it rides on the hammer. So that's also designed, as weak as they are, I will have to admit that, because they are a weak point in these revolvers. Okay? So, even with Friday's Nightmare, with everything being solid and little to no hammer gap, I don't know if the camera can pick it up. I'm talking about the gap between the frame and the sides of the hammer and the gap with the back strap. There's little to no gap there. And the same is also true with my 62 Pocket Police. Okay, now for the third revolver. go back on the channel and you'll see how I acquired this 51 Army San Marco Navy. Okay. When I got this gun finished and started shooting it, I couldn't hit what I was aiming at. And again, this hammer, the only movement in this hammer is what the tolerance is between the bolt and the hammer, and you would expect that little bit of movement. But as you're firing the gun, in my opinion, that movement as the hammer's falling forward doesn't wobble from side to side, it just goes straight down, in my opinion. And once again, once the charge goes off, you're still going in a straight line. Now, for those of you that have been following, you will see that I put a Remington dove sight, driftable dove sight, in this gun. And then you can see that I got this gun to pretty much impact the point of aim. Now, I'm not looking to get all 6 shots in a group the size of a quarter. That's not my intent and my purpose in sighting in these guns. For me, when I go in the field, I carry my cap and ball revolvers, and if I have to draw my weapon, it's probably going to be to dispatch a snake. And that's just pointing from standing up position to the ground. And if I can hit, you know, a twig the size of a quarter, then I'm happy with that. And so I guess that's all I really want to say about that in this video, because I have these guns here and I cannot detect any slop or any abnormal movement in the hammer other than just what the tolerance is from the bolt going through the hammer. So if you have any further insight on that, I would love to know that, because as it stands right now, I'm having an issue processing that. And bear in mind, guys, as you think your comment through, for me, I spent 14 years in the rental equipment industry, and those years that I spent doing that, I was a mechanic. I've rebuilt diesel motors, I've rebuilt hydraulic pumps, I've rebuilt injector pumps, engines, I've rebuilt the underbelly of a D4 bulldozer. At one point I got certified as a Husqvarna chainsaw small engine mechanic, repairing and rebuilding those engines. The same thing with your Briggs & Stratton engine. So I'm my mind very much works in a mechanical way. So that's why when I apply that knowledge to these guns, for me, because my mind works mechanically, I can see where the issue may be. Now, I'll tell you about this 62 Pocket Police. One thing that I did not do when I took off the front sight, I did not look to see if the hole was drilled perfectly on top. And even as such, it still wants to throw the bullet off to the right, which tells me the only way that that's going to get cured is to put a driftable front sight on it, because I don't want to open up my rear sights any more than what they actually are, because at some point in my mind you could have a rear sight that's opened up too much, which will cause you to not put your front sight dead center of the rear sight. So anyhow, friends, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not, and don't forget to share this with your bestest of buds. Bye.